people have spoken and the results are in. Jamaica has chosen its next government. Here with us to break down the numbers are Assistant Lecturer in the Department of Government at the UWI, Andrew MacDonald, and on Zoom, political commentator Kevin O'Brien Chang. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning to you both.
Everybody.
Sir Kevin, last time we spoke, you got it right. You said it was going to be very, very close. And Andrew, last time we spoke, you got it right because when I asked you who you thought would win, you said it would be difficult for the PNP to overturn the 18 seats that they needed. Let me start with you, Sir Kevin. Any surprises?
No, in the big picture, no, because as I said, we have had 6 previous third-term elections where the government is going for the third term, and only once has the governing party won. This makes it twice. Mr. Patterson did it in 2002. I know Dr. Holness has done it now. So, and it wasn't close. I mean, it wasn't an easy win. It's a hard fight. And so it goes to the historical norms. But I must say, this is the best election in the history of Jamaica. In terms of the camaraderie between the people. I went to vote yesterday. The orange and the green observers are laughing and joking. There was no animosity. I don't think we've had any serious incidents in this election. So from a democratic point of view, it is the best Jamaica has ever been. We had great rallies, great music, no violence. We had all the good stuff, the vibrancy and exuberance without any of the violence of the past. Kudos to the Jamaican people.
Excellent. Andrew, were you surprised by the turnout numbers?
Very surprised because the population seemed energized. I mean, both party bases seemed energized. And based on what we've seen, of course, because of social media, everything is a bit more visible now. Mm-hmm. So when you have large crowd sizes, when you have persons participate in the theater of politics, it's more visible to us now. So that would have been encouraging in terms of the numbers. Mm-hmm. But then at the end of the night, the final numbers were about 39%. And it's barely a 1 point increase from the last general election. And going into this election, everybody was saying, but in 2020, the pandemic happened. So that would have contributed to the lower voter turnout. Mm-hmm. And, I contested that in saying that generally Jamaicans have become more apathetic towards the political process. Mm-hmm. So when I saw the voter turnout last night, and I mean, majority of us, even myself, expected it to be anywhere about 45%, being very hopeful. Yeah. 45% onwards, maybe even about 50% if we were lucky. But then when you saw the final count, a matter of fact, about 3 p.m. when the count is around 30%, even that was a bit shocking because you know that polls close at 5 p.m. So if it's at 30% around 3 p.m., how many persons will go to vote at around, say 5 o'clock or so? But what I want to point out is that the voter turnout in terms of the nominal figure. So we've been looking at the percentages from ever since, but in terms of the nominal figure, it's been bobbing anywhere around a little bit above 800,000 for some time now. It hasn't changed really and truly. And I mean, both parties gained nominal numbers in terms of this election. So the JLP polled at least about 2,000 or so more votes, and the PNP recovered at least 96,000 or some more votes. So nominally, they had more votes each party, but it still didn't really affect the proportion because, of course, the voting pool has become larger.
Okay. Kevin, every time we speak, you tell me you go by the polls. And I think most of the times they get it right. Did they get it right this time?
Oh, both are out. One predicted the winner, but his margin was out, and one's margin was closer, but they didn't predict the winner. But I want to say something to Andrew. This talk about declining voter turnout is not true. We keep looking at the registered voters. Yes, they have gone up quite a bit, but that doesn't mean they got the IDs because they want to vote. If you look at from 1944, about 31% of the Jamaican people have voted. It bounces around a bit, 27, 25, 40, but this election comes in at about 30%. It's a very consistent pattern. When a certain section of the Jamaican people are interested in voting. And it doesn't bother me that much because the highest percentage of the population that ever voted was in 1980, the bloodiest election, Civil War election. Do I want to go back to those days? No. So the low voter turnout nominally, what the 31% of the population does not bother me. We've been doing it for 80 years. We have a wonderfully exuberant election. And the people's voices are heard. Those who don't want to vote, tough. And remembering in Jamaica, we have no class division in the election, no religious division, no race divisions or ethnic divisions. we have nothing really to fight about from a big picture. So many people say both parties are similar. At any rally, you could put green shirts or orange shirts and them the same demographic. So I don't think it's the turnout at 31% of the population. It doesn't bother me in the least.
All right. Any surprises on the night for you, Andrew, in terms of persons who would have retained their seats, persons who would have lost, persons who would have come in as newcomers?
All right, so not too many surprises, but of course, one minor surprise and one major surprise. And I'm guessing everybody could guess what the major surprise is, but let me start with the minor first. Kingston Central. Now, let me start by saying I acknowledge that Kingston Central has historically been one that's been in the PNP's column, of course, Reverend Ronald Twits, Michael Manley, so on and so forth. But when Donovan Williams won that seat in 2020, the work being done on the ground, and you hear it on the ground as well in terms of his improvement of infrastructure, his development in terms of access to sports, educational access for some of the youths in that area. And then you look at local government election with Almontown and Raytown, you said to yourself, it looked like it's promised to be a JLP seat going into this election. And of course, it's just the preliminary results, so we're still waiting on that final count and then probably a recount too as well. But it was also shocking to me when I saw at the end of the night that Donovan Williams lost his seat in Kingston Central. And of course, the major shock for the night, which shouldn't really be a shock, but it's of course a major shock, and that's Portland Eastern. So when you saw the results of Portland Eastern and Marie Vaz losing her seat, of course that surprised everyone because she's very visible. She's a big personality in the Jamaica Labour Party, and Perth have commended her for the work that she's done as a member of Parliament for the past 6 years. But then I also have to remind persons that before 2019, before the tragic passing of Linval Bloomfield, that was also a seat in the PNP's column too as well. And then in the 2020 election, the PNP only polled around 6,000 or so votes in the 2020 election. But then in this election, of course, they regained some of those voters, and Isaac Buchanan had polled over 8,000 or so votes. And in that seat, whenever the PNP won, they polled anywhere between 8,000 to 9,000 votes. So all those voters in Portland Eastern who have sat out the last 2020 election, they now came back to vote in a PNP candidate.
Yep. Kevin, I suspect there are many reasons, but if I stick you up and say, give me a reason why the JLP won, or if you wanted, give me a reason why the PNP lost, what would you say?
Prime, I think I polled the single greatest accomplishment of the JLP government in people's mind is cutting the murder rate by 50%. Crime has always been the big issue. And I think the overriding, if I ask people what is the best thing Andrew Holness's government has done, they've cut crime. So that's a major thing why they won. The PNP, why they didn't win, because the JLP, in contrast to most third-term governments, did perform. They cut crime by 50%. Jobs went down. The unemployment went down from 13 to 3%. Poverty went down from 21 to 8%. This is a government that performed. But the third-term syndrome is real. And I believe the third-term syndrome is Jamaicans are afraid to give too many terms to one party, we lose our democracy. You put them in, they'll entrench themselves, and we can't get the democracy back to choose, and you end up with a one-party state. That's my interpretation. So there's two contrasting factors. Do we want to keep a performing government? Yes. But do we want an arrogant three-party government? You can't talk to them and become dictators? No. I thought it was a great result for the country. Two things I was worried about. I want Commissioner Blake to continue to cut crime. He's give him another 3 years, crime will fall even further. But I also was afraid of the arrogance of the JLP. You could see it, how they're talking, the supporters and even the politicians themselves. Another third term, who could talk to them? But the JLP had lost. Commissioner Blake might have been booted out like how Ellington was booted out his cousin. So from my point of view, I didn't get the arrogance, and I got the continuation of Commissioner Blake. I was happy on a personal level.
All right, to you both, I'm asking if you could just stick with us for a while. We're going to go for a break. Sir Kevin and Andrew, if you don't mind, if you could stay with us, we're going to go for a break. When we come back,
No problem.
we will continue our discussions. Stay with us, please. Soon come.